for
because
whatever reason, DC's just really struggled with being able to
Michael,
like
the
bring in
James
and captivate an audience,
the
I
James
guess.
Gunn announcement that we just got done talking about, that's their third reboot in 10 years. Welcome to the Brothers Random Show. My name is Travis,
I'm Michael.
and we are two ordinary brothers discussing extraordinary ideas and some random shit. So the topics on this show range from theology, masculinity, movies, philosophy, books, pop culture, and many other subjects. We often talk about the people we admire and the wisdom they share. And one of those people is the great Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, who we think is the sage of our time. Michael, what's our subject today?
Today we're talking about Dan Kurgeman. We think Dan Kurgeman put a really good post on our video. It was our video where we were talking about trilogies, and he just made a comment that was really well thought out. It sounded like he was just kind of throwing it together off the cuff, but really enjoyed reading it. And he was, disagreeing a little bit with us, but it was all good. It's all good in the fun of just talking about movies, and really enjoyed the comment. And so we're just kind of talking about that for a little bit today.
Yeah, the comment, he was basically saying, I disagree with you, and here's why. And so he listed off a bunch of stuff. And so let's just get into it.
Well, in our conversation, just to pre talking about it, but like in our conversation, we were talking about how we felt like the second movie in a trilogy is usually the best.
Yeah.
And we, in our conversation, we did point out that it doesn't always work. We pointed out Indiana Jones, that the Temple of Doom was probably the worst of the Indiana Jones trilogy. And he kind of pointed out that he disagreed, that he thought that the first of the installment was usually the best. And anyway, we can get into it. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say one of the issues is this is all opinion, and so you YouTube correctors don't need to correct us all the time, but when it's thought out like Dan's, we're butchering his last name. I think it's Kirgadum.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry Dan, we're butchering your last name. So if you guys want to check out his comment, it's pretty well thought out. He starts out with the Matrix, where I would agree with him on this assessment, because the Matrix has produced some really shitty sequels, like
Yeah.
bad. In fact, the fourth one was so bad, Michael, I thought that it was done on purpose so they didn't have to make another one.
And I never even saw it. Like, I heard
mean,
it was so bad, I was like, not even gonna waste my time.
it was really, really, really bad. Like, there is not one action sequence in the fourth Matrix that I could tell you was even close to the action sequences in the first three.
Mm-hmm.
Not one. It was just
a
CGI orgy fest that was it was a piece of garbage. In my opinion, I thought it was such a anyway. But I mean, there were two before that weren't that great either. They were better, but they weren't great. And I'm convinced the Wachowskis are like a one-trick pony. I think they made one good movie in their entire careers. So
yeah. So definitely would agree there. And the Matrix, the first one, might have been such a good big hit that it may fall into kind of what we were talking about in that last episode, where we talked about that
the
it
theory
seems
of
like
they get too
big for their britches, and
they don't have anybody telling them that this is dumb.
Yeah.
The filmmakers become just like hubristic, right? They just have a ton of hubris, and they're not listening to anybody around them, and it's unfortunate because The Matrix is probably one of the best action movies of all time. I mean,
Yeah.
it deals with a lot of what do you call it, philosophy,
Oh yeah.
Pluto, is it called
With
Pluto's Cave? I think it's called
yeah, wasn't
Pluto's
it
Cave.
Pluto that talked about the cave? People are in the cave, and then as people like want to go out of the cave, some of the others are like, no, 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 don't go out of the cave.
Because
Yeah.
what is it like, there's another world outside of the cave, and then people inside the cave don't know and that they're slaves.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
Yeah.
similar to the Matrix idea that
Yeah.
we're all slaves in our own
And
reality.
what a I mean, if you think about and I obviously disagree a lot with the manosphere on a lot of things, but the online there have been a lot of men talking about and it even comes to the red pill, blue pill, right?
Yeah,
That all comes from the Matrix. Like if you think about how much that one movie has to do with so much of society, online society nowadays, it's kind of insane.
yeah, and it was done. Oh, like we call that relevance. It's cultural relevance. So it's got a
Okay.
ton of cultural relevance, just like Terminator.
Yeah.
Um, so he goes on to talk about Back to the Future. I would argue that the third one in Back to the Future is the best because it's in the Old West and it's awesome.
Yeah. I I I do like the third one a lot. And he's definitely right that the second one is not the best. So that falls our theory falls apart there. But
We should say that he broke them down into these. So he says trilogies where the first movie is the best one, and so we're
and
going
this is
through
what
that
we're
one.
talking about. And
Yeah.
then he goes trilogies where the second movie is the best one, and he lists those out. And then trilogies where the third movie is the best one, and he lists those out. So we're just
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Going
one at
through
a
them.
time. We're going through. Uh,
So
but
Back to
yeah,
the
Back to the
Future.
Future. The first one was just so revolutionary and just
Well, and
the
I have a issue with all the. When I was younger and watching it, I didn't really realize that the same woman that sees him in his underwear at the beginning is his mother. And so it's got this really weird incestuousness that is going on. And she kisses him at some point and she's like, why do I feel like I'm kissing my brother? And he's so it's a
it's just weird.
little
Like there's a little, it's a
there's a
little some
little
weird stuff in
there's
it.
some weird stuff in it. And so I wouldn't necessarily say like it's really good, but I would say that the third one's the best. The second one is okay. Second one has its problems. Uh but the third one is a lot of fun because it's just pure like Western tropes, and it's just a lot of fun. So I don't know. I don't
And it
know. I
wraps
don't know.
up the story really
and
well.
and it wraps up the
Like
story
it
really well,
it
which is why
does.
they've never gone back and done another one. It's like
Oh,
let's
just
leave
give
it
it time.
alone.
Oh, that don't
Give it time. They'll find
they'll
some
come
way to
after
do it.
it.
They'll
Just
come
wait.
after it.
They'll come
Yeah, I
after
wish
it.
they'd stop doing
Make
all that
make
shit.
they'll make the the protagonist is gonna be female. They'll
Or
do
transgender.
or trans probably.
It's
So
Marty
just
McFly's
wait.
like great grandchild who's anyway. It's yeah.
Then the Karate Kid. To be honest, I always liked the second one the most.
Well, and I
The
haven't seen any of the Karate Kids for so long that
for
I could not tell you which one. The first one is the most iconic, and
yeah,
at this point it's just become this elongated story because of Cobra Kai.
yeah. Oh,
So
which I, I'm a big fan. I love Cobra Kai.
I
I think
stopped watching it in
it's
like the second
fun.
season. I didn't continue on with it. I should probably go back
It,
and
it kind of been it, I just it's hard to tell. I sometimes I'm not a writer, but and sometimes movies or shows will, or yeah, trilogies or television shows will kind of they'll just start to lose you, and like slowly they start losing you more and more and more, and it's
Mm,
hard for me to articulate what it is exactly that's happening, that's not that's making me less incentivized to want to watch this, right?
well, it happens with a lot of things. Like I stopped watching uh what do you call it? The Walking Dead
Oh
for
yeah.
a- and it's hard to say. It's like viewer fatigue. You're just like, oh, come on, this is the same thing they did in what ep- season
Season
2
2,
or
yeah,
four or
so stuff
whatever.
like that.
So it's when they
So
become highly repetitive, and there's a lot of pressure on them because if you're making 13 to 20 episodes every season, you're like, and creativity is hard because you're sitting there trying to figure out, well, what's something new that we can show this audience that they haven't seen before. And I
mhm.
think when you have the same people on the same show for long periods of time without an overarching, see, this was famously what happened to Lost. They didn't have anywhere to go. They were in their second season. They felt like they were faltering, and so they made a deal with the network, and they said, we need an end point for this show. Otherwise, we're just faltering and just kind of bringing new people in, killing them off, and like we need an end. And it's one of the first series in history that on network television that made an end, like an end deal. They decided to do 5 or maybe it was 6 seasons. Um, and that was it. And they were like, we're going to end it. So they had like this, we know where we're going. And
Yeah,
not all series, most series in fact don't know where they're going. Um
yeah. And
now
so
I
just they kind of rummage around in the dark, not really knowing where the end is going to happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes during that that might be where they start to lose people. Not quite sure.
And Seinfeld famously did this before Lost. So
Mm,
Seinfeld was just a sitcom, so it was easier to do that, but it was one of the highest um, rated sitcoms of the time, and they made a deal like, we want to end this. We don't
mm-hmm.
want to keep this going. We want to end on the high note, not when it's
Right.
faltering down below. And that's exactly what happened to The Walking Dead, right? People stopped
Yeah.
watching it. It was like the biggest thing for forever, and then people stopped watching it, and then they're like, okay, well, we need to end this. And anyway, he says the first one in the Dark Knight trilogy. Now I would argue that the Dark Knight is the best of those.
Of
And
the Yeah,
and
we kind of talk about that.
we talked about one of our last
Yeah.
episodes, but that's definitely, he's right about the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the first one.
First one's the best.
All the sequels afterwards have been crap.
They kind
They
of
just have not stuck the landing on
it's
any of those. And
on
there's
any
4
of
of
those.
them.
It's got
There's so many of them that we stopped caring that there were so many of them.
yeah.
There's like 4 or 5 of them now. Is it 4 or is it 5?
I
Shoot. I think it's
it's
5.
like I mean it's like a bunch of them, a lot of them that they want to just milk it for everything that's worth. I mean, you got that with the Fast and the Furiouses. You've got that with and I, not to diss on the Mission Impossibles, but because I actually love all the Mission Impossibles, except for the second one. So there's another thing there. Anyway, but the uh, and that's another one where they keep making it. They keep making them because they make money, and
They're just
yeah.
not,
So
they decline in quality as they go along. And you'd think that the filmmakers would be like, you think they'd go, oh, we're not doing so good at this. Maybe this is it. which is why it's stupid to try making another Indiana Jones, right?
Mhm.
The last one was so bad.
Yeah.
Like, why are you going to continue anyway?
Yeah.
He's the Chronicles of Narnia. He's right about that.
Right, that
That's
first one was the best. Yep.
first one's the
Iron
best.
Man. Iron Man first one was the best.
Iron
Yeah.
Man first one was the best. Man of Steel trilogy. Ooh, what's he's? What do you think he's talking about there?
So that would be Superman, the first one.
Snyderverse.
I think so. Yeah. The
Yeah,
first
but he
one
only
being
made one
Iron
movie.
Man.
They only made
Or
one
I mean
movie.
Man of Steel. What's that?
They only made one movie for him. I mean, he's in Justice League and Dawn of Justice League or
He
Dawn of
must be
Justice.
talking about, yeah, it
Yeah,
must
maybe
be
that's what he's talking about.
the which one is it that they introduced the Ben Affleck Batman?
It's Dawn of Justice.
Dawn of Justice. Okay, so yeah, that and
So
then
Man is still. I wouldn't consider them trilogies, right? They're
yeah,
just they're interlocking movies.
yeah,
Um,
basically.
but I would
But I
agree that
did like Man of Steel.
there's
Uh,
problems with that one, but I would agree that that one's probably one of the better. And
yeah,
it's
I
unfortunate that
liked it. A lot of people had a problem because, spoiler alert here, but a lot of people I talked to had a problem with the fact um that he killed somebody.
yeah, at the end, yeah,
and
yeah. That's
and,
definitely well, that's the
and that
Snyder
was
first for you, where
and that
Batman.
was always kind of, they're just like, that's not Superman. Superman was kind of like Batman. It was always this thing, this
Yeah.
struggle to always make sure that they didn't kill someone. um and that, I guess, because I never watched the Smallvilles, but
Oh
um
yeah, I
but
I watched like 2 seasons of that. That was pretty good. The Tom Welling is really good in that as Clark Kent. But the issue with Superman is he's supposed to embody the truth, justice, and American way, and the Man of Steel was darker. And you're right, like he kills somebody at the end of it, and it's like that's not what Superman does.
yeah, and we
So
can, if we wanted to do a deep dive into Superman, I'd love to. He's my favorite superhero. Batman's yours. Maybe that would be fun to just do an episode on
yeah.
kind of deep diving into some of these superheroes
Well, and
and their
here's
archetype.
this is a little bit
But
of a tangent, Michael, but James Gunn just recently announced like their lineup for DC, the DC U, and they basically fired Henry Cavill, and he
did
says
they
that
fire him or did he walk away? Because I thought Cavill
well,
was kind of like, I think I'm done with this.
he says he just wasn't rehired. That's what
Oh, really?
James Gunn
Okay.
said, which
Yeah.
is the same as being fired, I guess.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're going to
So
have some new person
some new
as Superman.
person, and there's
I
a
love
big
Henry Cavill though.
I do like Henry Cavill a lot, but I like him
Yeah.
more for his antics at not as a character. Like his videos where he's like talking about like the things that he loves and he's kind of nerdy about it. Like I don't really
Yeah,
like
during COVID, I
anything.
guess he did a video where he made a computer,
Yeah,
and
he
he
put
just
together a
got
computer.
online, and he's just like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna fumble my way through this. You guys want to join me, and
Yeah.
we'll kind of figure this out
So
together."
what's amazing about him is he keeps getting shafted. Like he's basically fired from being the Witcher.
Oh.
Um which the
Well,
last season of The Witcher
it
wasn't
sounds
that
like they
great.
just had a different
Vision for where the
vision,
character would
and
go.
he is such a diehard fan
So
that
he's a fan of the books and the video games. And what's unfortunate about all this is that they've kept the two worst people that they could possibly keep for the DCEU, which is Amber Heard and Ezra Miller. I don't know if audience, if you don't know anything about, you can do a
yeah.
simple Google search like the problem with Ezra Miller, and it's some dark shit. and they're keeping that guy on board, but they got rid of the guy that's not causing any problems with his off-screen antics. Seems a little like where are your priorities here? So
Yeah.
anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent. You can look up
on that.
James Gunn's video. It's kind of a disaster because he's mentioning characters that nobody cares about. Okay, so he mentions The Hangover. I would agree.
Yeah.
The first one's the best. First one was so dang funny. I have never laughed so hard with The Hangover. I cannot. I think Old School and The Hangover are two of the biggest gross out comedies, and they're the most funny shows ever. Like,
yeah,
Will Ferrell in Old School is hilarious, and Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover is hilarious. Those are two genius comedies. And I'm not a big comedy guy. I don't really watch a lot of comedies, but those were fun. Like the part where he's singing the song about the tiger, and then the tiger, like, because they just drugged the tiger, you hear him go
What do tigers dream of when they take a little tiger snooze? Do they dream of mauling zebras or Halle Berry in her Catwoman suit? Don't you worry your pretty striped head, we're gonna get you back to Tyson and your cozy tiger bed. And then we're gonna find our best friend Doug, and then we're gonna give him a best friend hug. Doug, Doug, oh, Doug, 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 Doug. But if he's been murdered by crystal meth tweakers, well then we're shit out of luck.
I just about died at that part in the movie. I could not contain myself. That was so funny. It still makes me laugh. But that
they pull his tooth. They're like,
yeah. Oh,
or was that the second one? I don't know.
The dentist with the tooth. It's
He's like, I'm a dentist. I know what I'm doing. No, you're high. Come on, man.
Oh my gosh, what a funny movie.
Good times.
So then he goes into his trilogies, where the second movie
is the best one.
The best one. And Star Wars original trilogy, that I have a tendency to agree with him on this, because the first one is really good, but I also really, really like, and most people would argue that The Empire Strikes Back is the best one, because it's a little bit darker. They lose in the good guys lose. There's a lot of stuff up in the air that they don't know.
Think about if you were, old enough to like be really enamored with this movie, and you watch, A New Hope, right? Where at the end they win, the good guys win, and Vader's still alive. He's still alive, but like the good guys win, and it's all, they get recognized. The heroes get recognized for their bravery. All this, blah blah blah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you got the ending of it's completely different, turned on its head. Everything falls apart. Luke loses a hand. You find out that the big bad guys, the Luke's father, right? Just like mind blown. And then you've got you don't even know, like, Han Solo is alive, but he's frozen.
And one of the reasons they did that is because they didn't know if Harrison Ford was going to sign on for a third movie.
No, really? I did not know that.
I read funny. That somewhere. I don't know how accurate that is, but they didn't know if he would sign on for another movie, and they didn't want to kill the character, because he kept asking them to kill off the character. And it's just funny that they were like, okay, let's freeze him in carbonite. But what's great about that is that, okay, so she says she loves him. It's a more romantic movie. And they're at each other's throats through half of it. There's tons of good things about The Empire Strikes Back that are more or less missing in the first film. I like the third film even. If it wasn't for the Ewoks, it would be it would be a perfect film probably.
Oh,
But
hating
anyway,
on some teddy bears. Come on.
hating on the teddy bears. But I do have to say that what made that the third movie so great was Leia's metal bikini.
Oh, the third movie.
And I'll leave it at that.
Well,
So
to the yeah.
he says
The
the
Godfather.
Godfather. I would
I
agree. The second one's probably the best.
really,
Oh yeah,
really.
yeah.
I thought the first Godfather was yeah.
Big.
I'd have to rewatch him again, and because it's been
Yeah,
a long time.
been a long time for
I
me
remember
too.
what I remember loving the first one, and feeling like the second one was a little too slow. But that, put a pin in that.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
maybe we can
Maybe
revisit.
he's right about Spider-Man.
Spider-Man,
With the
second
Toby
one's the best.
Toy Story.
Toy Story.
I don't think he's right about that because I would argue that the first Toy Story is the best.
God, what happened in the second one?
But they're not even trilogies anymore, right? There's 4 of those
It,
movies, and they're gonna probably make a 5th one.
yeah, they'll probably keep making those. Well, was the third one where they kind of wrapped up
Andy gives his toys to
he
the
gives
little girl.
the toys away.
Yeah.
Which did your kids cry
Oh yeah.
watching that?
Watching that last half of that movie is like just tear jerking.
Just tears because they're
about
they're
to
all
be
gonna
incinerated.
die. Like all the toys are gonna die,
and they all hold
like
each other's hands.
They're holding hands.
They're about to be put in the incinerator.
It's a kids movie. Come on,
it's a kids movie, and I'm
tearing
up.
I'm like, if these toys die, I'm
like
these toys die right here.
Disney Plus right now. Anyway,
so
I don't know if I agree with him on that. That's the Toy Story. I don't know. We'll see. I don't really know what to think about that.
Captain America was the second one was the one where they kind of introduced not introduced Hydra.
No, I think the second one's is the Winter Soldier, Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier. That was really good. And
yeah, it probably was one of the better ones. Yeah.
Way better than the first one. Yeah.
But Civil War, it's Captain America Civil War. So everybody calls it Civil War, but it's actually a Captain America movie.
Yeah.
I thought Civil War was
show.
I thought Civil War was better. Yeah. Because I remember that coming out the same year that or was it the same year? I think it was the same year that Batman versus Superman came out and the Dawn of Justice. And I remember thinking they took Captain America and Iron Man and did a versus storyline that was so much more nuanced and perfect than anything that was in Dawn of Justice. And I was so disappointed because my favorite character, hero, is Batman. And I was like, why couldn't they have taken the story beats from Civil War and put them in? I mean, I know they're 2 separate competing companies, but the point is that Civil War was really good and really well done.
For whatever reason, DC's just really struggled with being able to bring in and captivate an audience.
The James Gunn announcement that we just got done talking about, that's their 3rd reboot in 10 years. This will
reboot of the same story
of the same characters.
Yeah.
This will be their 3rd reboot in about 10 years, in a decade.
Right.
It's like they do not know what to do with their characters.
Right.
Anyway, so I would disagree with that. Now, for the listening audience, he mentions the Coronado trilogy. Now, not everybody knows what that is. The Coronado trilogy is 3 films set somewhere. I think it's the place that they are at. is an anthology series of British comedic genre films. They're directed by Edgar Wright, and they star Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. If you don't know what the movies are The World's End, Hot Fuzz, and Shaun of the Dead. Most
Didn't
people
Shaun
know.
of the Dead come? Shaun of the Dead came out first, then it was
Yeah.
Hot Fuzz, then
Yeah, it's
World's End.
I just mentioned them in different order.
Yeah, not necessarily a trilogy, I would say, it because they
it's
weren't
not really
following any kind of. They're different characters,
they're
right?
considered it's only considered a trilogy because it's the same filmmakers, the same actors. That's what makes it a trilogy. And I don't know what we're like trilogy in spirit, because they are not the same characters. They're not continued stories.
Yeah.
I mean, one is a zombie flick. Shaun of the Dead is a zombie flick. Hot Fuzz,
yeah, and it's a parody. It's a parody of Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, and Hot Fuzz
And
is the same thing. It's
which is it's hilarious. Like I love it, and I loved Hot Fuzz. I would agree. I would think Hot Fuzz was the better of the
I
didn't see the third one that he's talking about.
It's pretty good. The World's End, it's like a alien invasion movie.
Oh, okay.
It's about a bunch of friends that go to a bar. They're gonna do a bar crawl, and when they're doing their bar crawl, there's alien invasion happens. It's pretty funny.
It's great.
It's not a bad movie, but I wouldn't first of all, I wouldn't consider that a trilogy, and second of all, I think he's right about the second one being the best, because Hot Fuzz, I liked Hot Fuzz more than Shaun of the Dead, because Shaun of the Dead has this turn right in the middle where it's no longer funny, and it was intentionally done that way, but it's like right in the middle, towards the end, there's a character that dies in it, and it turns dark, and there are no longer jokes being made and I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, I don't like this, because I was going with it, all the snarky, comments and stuff like that. I was on board, and then it just turns really dark. I mean, it's not a terrible film. I just didn't like that tonal shift that it had. But Hot Fuzz was pretty much funny through the entire thing. Original
X-Men trilogy.
Original X-Men trilogy. The second one is the best.
The second one, I don't remember liking the second one.
That's the one where they have
Jane Grey dies in that one.
Yeah, the end of that one.
At the end,
they were trying to set up the Phoenix story.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't disagree with that. It's a pretty good one, but I still only remember the first.
I don't remember the first one. I don't remember.
Has it been
the only
that
thing
long?
I remember about the second one is where she lifts up the plane, and then the water like gets her.
Yeah.
And that's about all I remember of that one. Yeah. I don't know. I seem to think that the first one was the better.
Because that's the one that you probably remember the best, where they have the fight on top of
where I remember it being pretty revolutionary when when Wolverine gets thrown by Sabretooth, and he grabs the
spike on the head of
head of the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, if you watch that now,
grabs it and he comes back around.
Yeah,
and lands. I mean, I felt like that was at the time. I mean, at the time, I think I want to say they used the same technology that they used for the Matrix with the cameras, the way that they had the cameras around and would film the
bullet
camera
bullet
going around.
It's called bullet time.
Bullet time, and it's called that because of in the Matrix. It's first used, I think, when Neo is dodging the bullets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know if I'd agree with that. I think I'd say that the first one's probably the best of those.
mhm.
But if you're
But
going
still, I
with
mean, he's
if
making a good case. Like,
if
it's
what
great.
if you're going with the X-Men movies, Logan is by far the best of all of them. Like bar
Yeah.
none. They're
Well,
like
he mentions that in the Wolverine trilogy. Anyway, we'll kind of get to that. And
yeah.
he's where
Well,
his
that
argument is that the third movie is the best one,
so
and we'll
the
get into
Hobbit.
that.
He talks about the Hobbit. Now, they're okay movies, but I don't really care for them as much as I cared for the Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings are
Yeah.
the perfect films, where the Hobbit films are way less, and that still feeds into my theory about the filmmaker not being as on top of things as they were,
Mm-hmm.
because the Hobbit movies are made by the same person, Peter Jackson, and they decline in quality exponentially from the original Lord of the Rings trilogy to the Hobbit films. They're
Yeah.
just not that great. And I would argue, I think the second one in those is probably the best because of Smog. They introduce Smog. Most of the movie takes place with Smog in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I saw
and
the first one, but I didn't even see any of the other ones. So I
oh,
don't.
really?
Yeah.
Get the extended editions and watch them. They're good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I wouldn't say there's too much CGI. It's just you after a while you just don't care anymore.
Right. Right.
But that's the problem with CGI effects, is after there's so much of it that you just don't give a crap anymore about what's going on. Okay, he goes
And then
into
you start
the
going into the trilogies, where the third movie is the best one, and the first one he lists off is the Lord of the Rings. In the comments, we kind of got some pushback on the art. I guess I don't know if you agree, but my opinion is that the second one is the best. And
oh on
was it was it
okay,
I
so
Poulter? Poulter?
oh yeah, shout out to him.
Yeah, for
um
commenting. I mean,
um
seriously, even though you disagree, like, it's all good, but we're talking movies and it's awesome shit. So we just love doing it.
well, it's all opinion based anyway. So I would argue that all three of them are 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 just one movie, because they were all shot back to back. It took them something like 4 years. It's never been done before or since, where all
Where
three,
they just shot it all.
where they just
They
shot it all. I mean, the Matrix sequels were shot back to back, but that's only two movies. I'm trying to think. I don't think they do. I don't think they do it anymore, because they were trying to do it with Tintin, and the first movie came out and was a huge bomb, and we've never seen the footage that they shot for the second movie. So anyway,
so
it's
think
never
about
been
how
done.
much they probably saved doing that. They probably saved an arm and a leg if you think about it,
Well, and it was a
right?
huge undertaking at the time. So I can't even, with the amount of the movies cost nowadays, I would think that they just wouldn't make any time. You know, um, they just couldn't do it nowadays because it costs so dang much. But I would argue that they are one perfect film. And
Okay.
that's how I kind of see them. But
Right.
because there are really cool elements in the last movie. Now, I get what you're saying with Helm's Deep. Helm's Deep is one of the best action sequences ever put to film.
Let
But
me talk a little bit about that. Some of my reasoning of why I think that uh, the Two Towers was in effect better than the Return of the King. The Two Towers, I just felt like the setup and the payoff for Helm's Deep was better than the setup and payoff for Minas Tirith.
Mm-hmm.
And that aside, I actually loved how they wrapped up the Frodo is going into Mordor, and they after Minas Tirith, Aragorn and the rest of them, they go to distract, and they go out to like that. All I felt like was really good. I loved all that. I just felt like, so there was a setup for Helm's Deep where Gandalf goes to get help, right? And he's just like, there's just not enough time, and he's going to go get help, right? You kind of forget about Gandalf going and getting help, right? And then you see all of Helm's Deep start to just fall apart, and their wall gets blown up, and everything's just kind of falling apart, right? And everybody's getting pushed to the brink, right? And Aragorn is losing hope a little bit, but then also Legolas and some just camaraderie. Legolas and Gimli are trying to help him and like support him as being a leader, right? And then you start to lose hope, but they're like, well, we're gonna die anyways, let's just go die, fighting go down fighting. And then you get Gandalf coming, look to the east, which is a little bit of a messianic trope thrown in. People probably don't even agree with that, just because Tolkien hated symbolism, or like he hated trying to use his story as an analogy for Jesus and stuff like that. Anyway, but he comes, and then they come and save them, and comes down, running down the hill. It's just, the payoff is just, I felt like, greater than in Minas Tirith. You've got Aragorn goes and gets the green ghosts, and the green ghost thing,
it's better served on the director's cut. I don't know if you watch the director's cut of
it's been a long time,
but it's better served. There's a little bit more to it. It seems like a departure in the movie. I agree, but it's kind of got a horror vibe to it that I didn't mind. But I like this. I like that because they have the mouth of Sauron in the director's cut, which is really cool. It's a cool scene, and creepy, like a creepy, cool scene. So I'm not, I don't know if I can really take a side on which one's the better one. Because I really like the last one. I like his speech, his rousing speech before the battle.
Oh, Sam. Oh wait, no.
Aragorn's.
Okay.
At the
and
gate.
the rousing speech from the King of Rohan.
Now I'm not talking about Minas Tirith. I'm talking about the last battle.
At the gate of Mordor.
The gate of Mordor. Yeah. So
but I also loved I keep forgetting his name, but the King of Rohan's rousing speech when they show up and they're with all their horses, the people of Rohan, and they're just like looking, and they're just like, oh no, what are we getting ourselves into? And then so that, I mean, there's an argument to be made, and I love talking about it because I think it's just fun talking about the stories and stuff like that. It's funny that I felt like a lot of people just like, you're so dumb. You think that one's the best.
Well, I wouldn't worry too much.
It's okay,
about
guys.
But it's okay. It's an opinion. Then he talks about the Indiana Jones. The third one is the best one, but Indiana Jones isn't really considered a trilogy anymore because there's 4 of them and there's going to be 5, and the last one was shit. I would agree. The third one is it's a toss up for me between the first one and the third one because they're really good. Like the third one is really good because of his dad, and the first one's just really good in general. So I don't know if I can really say which one's which. He talks about the Dollar trilogy, which is I believe that what he's referring to is the Clint Eastwood films. It's Clint Eastwood, Sergio Leone, and it's a Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, and Good, Bad, and the Ugly, which I don't think they're technically sequels. They are made by the same. It's much like the Coronado films. They're made by the same filmmaker. They have the same actors, and I think it's they're different characters. I think one in a Fistful of Dollars.
So does technically
it's been a long
Clint
time
Eastwood
since I've seen
play a different character in each one?
No,
but they never mention his name. Do they?
They're like the Man with No Name series.
Okay.
I could be conflating them with a different series, but
yeah,
he's playing the same character in 2 of them. There's a Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More. That's the same character. Those are sequels. But I don't believe that the Good, Bad, the Ugly is technically the same characters. I would have to look into that, but it's been years since I've seen any of those movies.
Yeah, same.
So
it's been a while.
It's been a long time. He talks about Thor being the third movie. Well, is that Ragnarok?
That'd be Ragnarok, yeah. Which
I can't disagree with. I never even saw Thor Love and Thunder though.
Love and Thunder.
I haven't even
That's the thing
it.
is like, is it a trilogy when they made a fourth one?
When they made a fourth one.
That's probably another discussion is like is it still a trilogy when they start making more movies of it, or right? Yeah. I don't know.
It used to be this thing, and I wanted to talk to you about this, but it used to be this thing in the 90s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s that once you've done the 3 films, you're done, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a 3-act structure. That's how our stories are built. There's a beginning, a middle, an end. That's how our stories in general are structured that way. And for some reason that I think it's just the greed of Hollywood has just decided that we need more than just 3. Now this doesn't always work because there were like Death Wish had like 4 or 5, I can't remember. And those are from the 70s. So for whatever reason, it seemed to do really well when they just wrapped up the story, but because of the new greed in Hollywood, they're just making 4ths and 5ths of everything. And I can't say that's a good thing because I'm having a hard time remembering a 4th film that was any good.
Yeah, I can't.
I don't know.
I mean,
maybe Live Free and Die Hard. That was the 4th one.
Oh, it was. I mean, that was okay.
It was okay.
I don't
but
think
the 5th one was crap.
Yeah.
With his son. I mean, that was crap. And it might.
I didn't even finish it. I started it and
you were like, I don't even like this.
I liked what was the 4th Mission Impossible?
Yes,
I really loved the 3rd one, but the 4th one was still good. I can't remember exactly which one was. Was it Ghost?
Ghost Protocol.
Ghost Protocol.
That's where he's on the building. Yeah.
So those are good. Kept going. Those were still
keep
good.
Going. They keep going. They're still going good. But they're not a. You're right. I think I'm liking them better than I did in the 90s. For the Mission Impossibles.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one's fine. The second one's not that great, but the third one's really good, and they kind of moved up in quality.
Yeah.
And the same thing kind of happened with the Fast and Furious films, because I didn't really care and I didn't really care and I didn't really care. And then the fifth one came out. I was like, this one's awesome. And then
was that the first one with Dwayne
then
Johnson?
yeah. And then it
Yeah.
peaked at that, in my opinion. And then it just kind of went down, 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 down. And now they have cars in space.
Yeah.
I think they've jumped the
No,
shark on
really?
that one.
Did they?
The last one, they had a car in space. I kid you not.
Oh my gosh. They got to keep pushing that.
They just got to be,
Keep pushing.
It's the same thing that happened with James Bond, right? Moonraker was them doing it in space. By that point, he was being played by the third actor, Roger Moore. Most of the Roger Moore ones are so campy and dumb. It's not even they're just not that great, and they just lose all of the quality that anything that Sean Connery had brought to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the dark years for James Bond. I mean, it's revived, I guess, when Pierce Brosnan comes in, and then again with Daniel Craig. And so I don't know, as far as series of films, I don't know if we really consider them trilogies anymore after they've had more than 3.
Yeah, I don't know. So I guess, well, the definition trilogy is
is
3. The Latin, I think, is it Latin? Is 3. So it's like 3. Anyway,
and he says the Star Wars prequels, the third movie, I hated all of them. So you'll have to weigh in on that.
Yes, if there were to be a better one out of Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and or is it Rise of the Sith? Wait, no, Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is the better of the 3. It really is. Like,
but isn't it kind of like trying to polish a turd?
Sure, I guess.
I know you're more partial to them because of the series on the TV series, but I haven't liked the Star Wars movie in a long time.
Yeah, right. But also, like, you watch Attack of the Clones, and then you watch things like the Clone Wars, the series, and Rebels, and some of these other things coming in. Dave Filoni puts his hand on, and it's just like, this is good shit. So
and he says Spider-Man MCU trilogy. Okay, so he's referring to the Tom Holland verse. So
Tom Holland, that would be what was their first one?
Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. No Way Home was the best. I would agree.
Yeah, that's where they bring in the others.
They bring in the multiverse. It's very, very well done. It has a ton of nostalgia. It's nostalgia porn like nobody's business, but it's done so well. It's hard to imagine that there's any better way to do it.
Yeah,
it's really well done.
Yeah, and I still haven't seen it, so don't.
You need to watch that, man.
I know.
I mean, it's so easy now. Just get on Disney Plus.
Somebody told me that I needed to go and watch all of the other Spider-Mans before I watch this one.
You don't.
And I just haven't gotten around to
it. It's nostalgic. It has Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. It's really great. You do need to see it. It's better. It's better. And then he says something about the Wolverine trilogy.
The third one would be, if you think about it, it'd be Wolverine Origins,
and then it was X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Okay, yeah, X-Men Origins,
because they were planning on doing more X-Men movies. They were just going to milk it till it died. But the problem is that the X-Men Origins Wolverine was terrible in my mind. I thought it was a shit film. The CGI is atrocious in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then James Mangold comes along and he takes it on. And that's where he goes. It's called The Wolverine, and it's where he goes to Japan. That's a better film. It's not a good film. It's just better.
I mean, it was okay. That's
okay.
how I felt about it. I was just like, it's okay.
It's okay.
The
Logan movie, the last one, is a near perfect movie.
Yeah.
Which, that's what he's saying here. The third one is the best. And I agree. Yeah. I agree with that. But I also see it as its own movie. I do not think of it as
necessarily think of it as part of a trilogy or anything.
Part of a trilogy. Yeah. And they kind of did that on purpose. I mean, it works within the pantheon of trilogies and stuff like that. And it looks
I know they made a mention of something that kind of, so apparently there's different parallel universes going on because of time travel. Things have kind of,
well, and it's also a good way for the studio to milk more out of it. It's like, the actors are getting old. We got to find ways to make them look, younger. Hugh Jackman recently announced he's coming back as Wolverine for the third Deadpool movie, which
that's hilarious.
Who knows? Who knows how that's going to be?
You seen that little clip with him and Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, it's pretty.
And they're just clip. Like, well, this is what happened, and then
the sound goes out. Just like, and then they're like, anyway.
Yeah,
it's a good way. It's a good way to get people excited for something.
And people talking about it, because you got like lip readers. Like, what did they really say? I don't think it really matters what they really said.
They knew what they were doing. It doesn't matter what they were saying, because it wouldn't matter. This is where he goes, from the trilogies I can remember offhand, there were 9 where the first one is the best, 8 where the second movie is the best, and 7 where the third movie is the best. I got a shout out to Dan. Thanks for that comment, Dan. That gave us some discussion to talk about.
Yeah, fun.
My final thoughts, I guess I would say, some of the things that he says are very accurate, and I would agree with a lot of what he says. But the thing is that we really need to remember what a trilogy is. It's a set of 3 films, and for a long time it used to be the penultimate. Right? You make 3 of the films, you're done, you're out. Don't make any more. And recently in our society, we have decided to rehash or redo or sequelize everything, and I don't know if it's adding anything. I mean, you could argue that it has, but like I was saying, I'm having a hard time remembering a 4th film that I liked. A 4th film in a series of films. I think Mission Impossible, you can do it. You can do it with Bond movies. You might be able to do it with the Fast and the Furious movies, but it's it's way lower in quality as the time goes by. So
what movie or trilogy was it where they took the third one and they split it into 2 movies so that they could milk as much as they could out of it? So they basically,
it's that's the Hunger Games.
Hunger Games.
So they're 3 books, and they split the last one into 2 movies, which they're not bad movies. I didn't like the first Hunger Games, but the last 3 of them I thought were pretty good. But according to Jennifer Lawrence, they are the best movies ever, and they are the only movies they were the first movies with a strong female lead.
Yeah. The first action movie with a female lead.
Yeah.
It's like, are you too young to remember Aliens?
Yeah.
Ooh, Aliens.
Or Terminator.
Second one. Second one was the best.
Second one. And Terminator was the second one was the best.
Terminator, right? Second one was the best.
Yeah. There's a good case to be made for that, right?
There you go.
And Dan didn't even mention those ones.
Well,
that's fun.
And
hey, what's wrong with
like
you, Dan?
said, just off the top of his head. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a lot of movies out there, but also it could. I mean, because they started making more of those, it's like, was it a trilogy?
Yeah, it's not a trilogy anymore because there's four or
Isn't
five
it?
of them
Is
now.
it not when you make six of them?
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's not a trilogy
Well,
anymore.
and we sound like old guys, like, get off my lawn, don't make any more of my stop putting a fourth one onto my trilogies. I wish they had just stayed with three with Indiana Jones, because that was really well done. They wrapped it up nicely. And the fourth one was so bad. It was so
Watching
bad.
watching the interview with Steven Spielberg when they were trying to get Steven Spielberg back on board to do another one. Apparently, George Lucas and Harrison Ford were like, "Come on, Steven, let's go. Let's do this. Let's
Yeah.
do this fourth one." And Steven's like, "The whole point of The Last Crusade, one, it's in the name, Last Crusade, and
Yeah.
then also like they ride off into the sunset.
It's the end.
It's the end."
It's a good ending. And he should
And
have
like,
stuck
and
he
they
should have
should have
stuck
just
with
stuck
this.
with
He
it.
should have stuck with it. Because he's not even involved. I don't think he's involved in the third one.
Uh,
They
Probably
got
not. He's probably just like, you know what, count me out.
James Mangold is coming, and he did Logan. So there is hope there, but it didn't look good. I mean, the trailer is bad, Michael. It does not look good.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
anyway, should we wrap this up?
Wrap this up. Please follow us on the socials. What are those there, Michael?
Yeah. Just 2 seconds. There we go. Okay. Instagram at the Brothers Random, Twitter at Brothers V Random, and YouTube obviously at the Brothers Random. And we're on Facebook as the Brothers Random page. So
we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We're trying to get this thing rolling. Please, here are the begs. We are going to beg you to subscribe and share and like and tell people and all that good stuff. Hopefully Dan is not pissed off at us for going into his long list of things.
Dan the man. Thanks, man, for the comment.
Thanks for the comment, and we will see you guys later. Keep reading, keep listening, keep watching, keep learning. We'll see you, brother.
See you.